Hey, Tim, let's start with this foundational question. Why is it so important for us to be planning ahead for our ministry calendars?
If I think if you plan a last minute, or if you're just looking at like, what are we doing next month, those kinds of things, you miss out on the opportunity to plan, to run it through a filter of like your mission as a church, your goals, your vision, your values. And I think by planning way ahead, it gives you the chance and the margin to be able to say, okay, what's the most important thing to us? Make sure we get those things on the calendar before anything else.
Yeah, so here's what I suspect, and I don't know if maybe you've even seen this in the past too, is many times I think churches are thinking about ministry planning kind of a first come, first serve basis. So whoever asks for an event on a specific date at a specific time and in a specific space first, or maybe the loudest, they get on the calendar and they get the priority. But sometimes I think we miss out on the opportunities related to our ministry planning to kind of set the priority in advance as well. So is there a better way to approach it rather than a first come, first serve basis?
Yeah, I think that's right. Often the person who like in their micro area, in their ministry area, who plan the furthest ahead, then it's like, oh, all the slots are filled. And then some of the priority things that maybe happen a little bit more in the moment, or as like senior teams getting ready for the fall, it's like, oh, we can't do this because all the rooms are full. And so I think back when you and I used to do seminars like 20 years ago, we used to talk about, we stole from Stephen Covey, the big rocks, little rocks concept of you get the big rocks in first. And what are those? Those are the things that are most important, the things that like match our values, the things that are most important to us as far as our mission goes, the things that are going to be the momentum producers for the next season, get those in first. And then what fits around it. And a lot of things get left out, and you find out they weren't that important anyway in pushing forward on your mission.
Just to follow up on that, a part of me, I just think, gosh, part of me wants to reward the leaders that are actually planning in advance. So, I mean, have you ever had to wrestle with that? It feels like, gosh, you're almost discouraging people from planning in advance if you think about more what's going to be best for the overall ministry of the church. How do you deal with that?
I would tend to pull them onto the senior team if they're not already there, because you need their gifting and their skill set, but you need it like through the perspective of the whole and not just a micro minister area. But yeah, I'd say you need them at the table for sure.
Very good. All right. So, I'm trusting, and we want as many people to connect to the church, to take their next steps towards Jesus. And if we want to reach more people and help more people take next steps, is there such thing as, having too many events? It would seem that more events is better if we want to encourage people to take more next steps. What's your thought on that?
There definitely isn't, an argument for that. I just think today's world is so noisy, like everywhere. It's not just church. It's not just church bulletins. It's everywhere. It's the stuff you're getting from your kid's school. It's the stuff you're bringing home from work. It's the stuff you get from retail and promotions and all of that. So whatever we can do to like make the mission of the church, the message that we're trying to communicate, as simple as possible, and to have, whether it's simple on-ramps to things, or it's simple ministry outreach initiatives, those kinds of things. And especially the larger the church goes, a lot of times we think, wow, the bigger we are, we can offer more things because we're bigger. We've got more resources, we got more volunteers, we have more leaders, we have more, possibly more money to be able to invest in events and things. But I would argue that the opposite is actually true. The bigger we get, the more like focused we need to get on what we're about, especially if you're a multi-site church. A lot of times you can get things coming from the overall church, you can get things coming from your campus location. And so like honing in on what it is that the church can offer, what are those one or two or three things that we need to communicate this week? It just helps if we don't have so many things on the menu.
Maybe to get to some specifics in your current experience or past experience, how many kind of big all church events do you think even a larger church can pull off with success? Any sense of that?
Yeah. So this is fresh. We just came the last 2 days from a leadership planning time. I served a church called Willow Creek in Chicago with 7 campuses. And we're in a turnaround, we're in a restructure of trying to go from kind of 7 silo campuses to like one church. And so we're all over this conversation trying to figure this out. We found just in recent weeks, some of our campus pastors are frustrated because we hand them 5 or 6 or 7 announcements to make on a weekend. And 1, they can't possibly do that. And 2, people can't possibly take it all in. They stop listening. They just tune out. And so I think there's it's about reducing the noise. It's about reducing about bringing clarity to what's important. I honestly think on the week, like if we're talking like a weekend announcement, it's maybe 1 or 2 things at the most that you're trying to point people to, and that helps clear away the calendar. Because if you can't promote it, sometimes it's like maybe we shouldn't be doing it. And if people aren't getting there through other avenues of promotion, which there's a lot of other fantastic avenues of promotion, but if they're not responding to that, maybe we shouldn't be doing it anyway. It's not accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish.
Tim, you mentioned Willow Creek is actually in 7 different locations. And so I'm wondering if there's any special consideration a multi-site church needs to make as they're thinking about their next ministry year.
Yeah, and coming out of this leadership planning trip, so this past fall, we were not very aligned. We were pretty cluttered in our communication. So we had fall festivals named 7 different things at 7 different campuses on 7 different dates. And that just gets cluttered because, you might think you're just talking to your campus, but really they're tuning into the other avenues, whether it's newsletters or social media, Instagrams, those kinds of things. So it gets real cluttered to people, even if it's just about their campus. And so, we're thinking like, how about next year? Let's do 1 fall festival. Let's call it one thing. Let's do it all on the same date. Let's do it in 7 different locations. And then we can really focus all of our communication on that to get new families engaged in the church. So that's just one thing. As we look at it, we just created an overall roadmap for next year that like, when are we doing the key large event baptisms? When are we doing the key family centered kind of events? When are we going to do, let's all do the financial, like FPU kind of thing. Let's all do that at the same time at all our campuses, starting the same week, ending the same week, because then we can generate all of our promotion and emphasis on that together. And then you get a really sense overall that like this really is one church. We're doing this together.